Okay, I think we have a quorum. So
We do have a
welcome,
quorum.
Mayor Sotelo-Solis. We're excited to have you.
Thank you for
Okay, so
having me.
we will, yes, good. Okay, so we will bring this meeting to order. This is the San Diego Regional Litter Abatement Subcommittee. It's Wednesday, November 18, 2020, just a little bit after 10 a.m. And I just wanted to update on a few things because it's been about a month since we last met. I think you're probably all aware that we have moved into the purple tier. The entire county has, and will remain here for at least 2 more weeks. And unfortunately, what this meant is that we have postponed our TARP Your Load events. So the city, the county, I Love a Clean San Diego, Surfrider, Caltrans, and CHP have been putting in a lot of effort and have put together 2 events that were on the books. And I'm really grateful for all those different organizations working to create these TARP Your Load events. And unfortunately, they've now been postponed. So hopefully they will be taking place soon when we're in a safer environment. But in the meantime, the trash is not going away here in our county. And so we need to be continuing to work together on the variety of different solutions we have. And so one of them, just to note, is that we're headed into the rainy season. And of course, that means that the trash runs off into our waterways, which is an environmental hazard and disaster that we want to avoid. So one of the things that I'll be doing is writing an op-ed to encourage everybody to join in our crusade to help clean up our region. And I encourage all of you to do that. Mayor Dedina said at the beginning that he's been having conversations, just got off the phone, having a conversation about it, and continuing all the different efforts that we put forward to try to create a cleaner environment in our county is really important. So it's still, this committee, I think, is really important for us because it is driving these different solutions that are not happening on their own. And I'm hopeful that we will, as we head into the new term with new council people, and SANDAG as an agency will continue to be committed to leading this, and that we'll have the political will to keep this going so that we can actually see meaningful change, because otherwise I don't see that there's a process where we will be seeing that. So with that, let's move forward on what we have on our agenda for today. I just want to confirm with our clerk, Francesca, that we do have a quorum.
Yes, Chair, we do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. So the first item is the approval of meeting minutes. And I would entertain a motion there.
Sotelo-Solis motion for approval.
Rigby second.
Oh, come on.
Okay, I think we had Rigby second and Sotelo-Solis made the motion. So let's go ahead and vote.
Thank you very much. For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
For the City of Imperial Beach, Mayor Dedina.
Dedina, yes.
Thank you. For the record, Deputy Mayor Feller is absent. Unless she should. For the City of Lemon Grove, Councilmember Mendoza, are you present? I didn't see her. I'll go ahead and mark her as absent. For the City of Vista, Deputy Mayor Rigby.
Yes.
Thank you. And for the City of National City, Mayor Sotelo-Solis.
Sotelo-Solis, aye.
Thank you very much. And that passes with the 2 absences.
Okay, thank you. And now I'm going to call on Gustavo at Caltrans. We've had an unfortunate accident and somebody has been killed. And I want to give Gustavo the opportunity to share some of the sad update about what's happening.
Like here, yes, it is not good day in San Diego, as we learned that last night at approximately 2 o'clock in the morning, one of our contractor workers who was working on a paving operation of 94 was hit by an errant vehicle and was killed. So this is a tragedy, and something that all of the essential workers that are out there, either maintaining our roads, picking up litter, paving our roads, fixing potholes, or the emergency responders that are helping stranded motorists or responding to accidents that they're exposed to every day. So it's unfortunate. Just last Friday at the Transportation Committee, I called everybody out to keep their eyes on the road. It was Safety Week last week, but really Safety Week should be every week. And we cannot have distracted drivers. We cannot have impaired drivers. We cannot have drivers that are not paying attention to where they are at. So we don't have the details about last night's incidents, and obviously there is an investigation that will yield the results of what really happened. But our workers sometimes are, protected by a lane or by a set of cones, like in this case, but being 12 feet away from traffic won't stop a car driving fast. And I'm told that we even had the speed reduction sign packages asking the public to drive slower through the construction area. But it is very, very tragic and very unfortunate. And obviously our thoughts and prayers are with the family and with the company that suffered this great loss. I thank you for the chance to speak about it.
Yeah, on behalf of all of us, our thoughts and prayers go out to the Caltrans family, to his family. I mean, it's the reminder of how dangerous it is to be working next to speeding traffic. It's a tragedy, and I'm so sorry that that's happened. Thank you for still joining us today. I know that you have a lot on your plate right now, Gustavo. So with that, I'm going to call on public comments, and then we'll take member comments at the end. And I'll just also remind the members that share that I'm going to be asking you for any ideas about who you would like to hear from at this committee, to keep this committee doing good work that's leading toward a solution. I'm open to ideas about what more we should hear from. So today we will be hearing from the CHP, Sergeant Johnson, about accident clearance and the larger role in litter abatement that has. But first I'm going to go to the public comments. And so I'll ask Francesca to call on those.
Thank you, Chair. And also I did need to state, I made a mistake during the minutes and forgot to call on the City of San Diego. So just wanted to state for the record that Councilmember Montgomery Stepp is also absent, but it shouldn't affect the vote. And I don't see hands raised anymore, but Mark O'Connor did have his hand raised earlier in the meeting. And oh, there he is again. All right, so I'll go ahead and call on him then to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Blakespear, you did an excellent update on where we are right now, but I want you to know that all participants are still willing and able with the Tarp Your Load events. We're not sure if it's going to be the vaccine or moving a tier or two that's going to get us onto property. I do want to give you some positive things though. A workaround might be when we were engaged with Miramar landfill, there was some talk about having their employee absorb the flyer and tarp handout in the line as they're conducting their business. So we're going to explore that as a means to get it started, since they're already dealing with COVID protocols and the public. It might be a way to get it kicked off to where some tarps can get into the right hands, at least at the Miramar landfill. Second is the Adopt a Highway program. Surfrider is up and ready to go. And it's different than our beach cleanup. So we're not asking, hundreds of people to show up in an area. It'll be a very tight core volunteer group, hopefully in appropriate bubble groups with all the safety equipment. But we're going to explore that idea of launching a ramp cleanup in support of Caltrans. And another last quick little update is it looks like the funding for tarps through the county is becoming more of a reality. That's a big help for us. So that's the update I have. We're still plugging away and trying to find some workarounds and get the word out before COVID lifts. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
That's great to hear. I'm happy about all of those updates, especially having tarp your load be integrated into the way that the landfills operate, because it seems like that's a key part. And in order to change behaviors, it can't just be a one-time event. It needs to become part of the way the expectations for the way the landfills are operating. Is there anything that you think this committee can do to help you? Are there any roadblocks that you have that you'd like to share?
Not at this time. I mean, you guys have really opened the doors to get this program to where it is, where we had 2 events scheduled. We were really looking forward to it. And unfortunately, it just didn't materialize. But I think right now we're in a good position. But I'll reach out to Lori to get to you guys if we do have something that pops up we need help with. But I think we're in a good place right now.
Okay. And also the other things that you brought up, like the Adopt a Highway, that I'm really excited about your organization and volunteers being more involved in that. So that, to you, that seems like that's also moving forward.
It is. And I'm not sure if Len has his hand up or if he was able to attend. I know there's some
He does.
conversations. Okay, I'll let him speak on his behalf. He may have more on that topic than I've got. So,
Okay, thank you.
all right.
So Francesca, would you like to call on the other speakers?
Thank you. Len is next with his hand raised.
Good morning. First off, congratulations, Mayor, on your reelection.
No, thank you.
You'll be staying on. Just a quick update. We had a great meeting with Caltrans and spent close to almost 2 hours talking about how to work the Adopt a Highway ramp and off-ramp program. So there's a list of things that we're looking to do and create opportunities into the future. There's a lot more in the permitting process and the actual identification of the space. So there's work that we have to do in order to get that started, but I'm very excited about the fact that they're willing to work with us and our folks are willing to work in that volunteer program. We've actually done a quick search around the country to see how some of these things are working in other locations. So we've had some ideas on how to potentially do this. So we're bringing those up to certain aspects of the community to see whether or not they've been supported. One of them in particular is a GoFundMe-like project in which a community could participate and actually adopt their on and off ramps. And that way businesses and others would be able to engage in a little different fashion. So it wouldn't have to be volunteers public on those particular highways, but we could potentially fund them through a different method. It's just one way in which we're looking at potentially doing this and figuring out how to make it a little bit faster and a little more coordinated so that individuals will be able to launch that. And now we're looking at probably just after the new year because the holiday season, even from a PR perspective, is very difficult to compete with. Even though we know that it's a real crisis and things are getting worse, not better, you know, pulling all this stuff together in a purple tier is a little bit harder still to getting it going. So we continue to work on it and we're really excited about where we potentially can take this in the very near future.
Okay, good. Well, that's great to hear. I mean, it's the same question to you. If there's anything that you think this committee could help with, we would like to know, because in some ways having the discussion publicly can help drive a bit of urgency that maybe can get lost among other things. So let us know if there's anything on the Adopt a Highway that we can help with.
We'll do. Mark and I and the gang are in constant contact almost daily on issues. So and Lori's been very supportive of making sure that our questions are answered.
Okay, great. And thank you, Gustavo, for your interest in this topic and continuing commitment to making it better. Okay, who else do we have?
I don't see any other hands raised.
Okay, great. Then let's go to our presentation. So this is California Highway Patrol. I have Sergeant Kyle Johnson here to provide an overview on the agency operations, litter abatement statistics, and procedures for the CHP that are in place to combat litter.
Good morning, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right,
Thank
perfect.
you.
Just want to make sure. First off, before I begin, I just want to, again, on behalf of CHP Border Division, send our condolences to Caltrans and the individual who lost his life last night. Obviously, it was a tragic incident. And that's, all of us in public service and Caltrans, that's just one of those unfortunate circumstances and things that we possibly may have to deal with while working on the freeways. I also spoke to the chief yesterday. He was not able to attend the meeting this morning. He had another meeting he had to attend, but again, he wanted me to pledge his support for the program. CHP Border Division, we're going to do everything on our end that we can do to assist in this subcommittee and assist in coming up with some type of action plan moving forward to help reduce this litter issue that we're dealing with within San Diego County. I also, in the meeting today, I have some new faces. I have an Officer Foffenberger, who works in the commercial unit. And I'm fairly new to the division and I have never worked in the commercial unit. So in case there's any questions related to tow truck operations, you might be better equipped to answer those. I also have two of my PIOs here as well, Officer Bailey and Officer Sanchez. And they have worked on similar projects in the past, tarp your load events, I believe with Caltrans within the county of San Diego. They did something similar a few years ago, so they might also have some good input into how they did things in the past. With that being said, we'll go ahead and start the presentation here, and we can move to the next slide. Is there a way to move those boxes? Cool. All right, so just a brief overview of San Diego and our jurisdiction. San Diego's population is a little over 3.3 million. That was in 2019. And we cover roughly 4,200 square miles. So we have a large area of responsibility. We're responsible to CHP for more than 300 miles of freeways, and a large portion, 2,000 miles, is county maintained roadways. We also provide security and protection at all state facilities and properties within San Diego. And in 2019, our dispatch center received over 770,000 calls, 400,000 of which were emergency 911 calls. So that just kind of gives you a brief overview of our area of responsibility and how many calls for service we actually receive. So we're pretty busy down here in the Border Division area. And we can go ahead and move to the next slide. In 2019, we wrote 16,579 collision reports. Okay, so that's quite a bit of collisions. But out of those, a little over 16,000, only 43 collisions had a primary collision factor of 23.114A. And essentially what 23.114A states in the vehicle code is any vehicle driving on a highway is required to secure their load in a manner in which is going to prevent those objects from falling outside of the vehicle onto the roadway. So out of those 16,000 or so, only 43 were actually a result of an object falling out of a vehicle. So not too significant. We issued over 87,000 traffic citations, inspected over 2,700 commercial vehicles. 9,000 of those violations were observed during vehicle inspections. And we placed over 500 commercial vehicles out of service. So that's typically done by our commercial officers. And we also received over 49,000 calls of objects in the roadway. So that's just kind of, we put this information in here essentially to show you that, we are out there actively taking appropriate enforcement action when needed. Our commercial officers are out there on a daily basis, also referred to MREs, mobile road enforcement officers, inspecting vehicles, conducting inspections. And those are the officers you'll see driving around in pickup trucks primarily. And they have certain equipment on their vehicles where they're able to do inspections and things on the side of the roadway that your average patrol officer would not be able to do. So we can go ahead and move to the next slide. The county of San Diego has the second highest homeless population in the state. I'm sure everyone's aware of that. Obviously, with the homeless population, that generates trash. In 2019, we received more than 9,500 pedestrian-related calls involving homeless. And in response, the CHP and Caltrans have been conducting homeless encampment details to clean up state-owned property alongside the freeways and Caltrans right away. CHP in conjunction with Caltrans also conducts sweeper details to remove debris from the center medians or the shoulders. Obviously, the way we go about this recently due to COVID has changed. Okay, so from right now to follow CDC guidelines, we are only, the CHP and Caltrans typically conducting enforcement cleanups if there's immediate safety hazard or if there's an issue with critical infrastructure, so a hazard to critical infrastructure. So an example of that would be if we've had homeless individuals in the past climb up into the bridge structures themselves within the cells of the bridge, and they'll create encampments up there, light fires to stay warm at night. Obviously, that's a safety hazard for not only them, but for the motoring public, because they could end up setting, a bridge or something on fire, and that would obviously, be a problem essentially. So right now, we're not doing a lot of homeless cleanup because we don't want to spread COVID-19. So again, we have to meet those certain requirements in order for CHP to go in and assist Caltrans with dealing with those encampments. And we can go ahead and move to the next slide. So here it just breaks down some of the common vehicle code violations that we cite in regards to loads, carrying your loads and whatnot. So obviously the description is abbreviated. It's not the full description. You could look in the vehicle code section online to see the actual full description, but we'll just run through these real quick here, just so you have an idea of how many citations we've issued for each violation in 2019. So 23.110, any person who throws a substance at a vehicle or any occupant thereof, we issued 229 citations. 23.110B, any person with intent to do great bodily injury, maliciously and willfully throws a rock, bottle, metal, etc. at a vehicle, we had about 16 of those. 23.111 BC, no person shall throw or discharge any lighted or non-lighted cigarette, match, or flaming glowing substance. We had a little over 1,200 citations issued. 23.112A, no person shall throw, deposit or aid in depositing any bottle, glass, nails, paper, wire, cigarettes, etc., or garbage on the roadway. That was 266 citations. 23.112B, no person shall place, deposit, dump any rocks, refuse, garbage, or dirt in or upon a highway. We had 43. 23.113A, any person who drops, dumps, deposits, throws any material shall remove the material. We had 7 citations. 23.114A, no vehicle carrying aggregate material, hay, straw, shall be driven on a highway unless covered, constructed, loaded as to prevent its contents from dropping, sifting, leaking, spilling, or otherwise escaping from the vehicle. 1,027. 23.114B, aggregate material shall only be carried in a cargo area. No material may escape regardless of the degree to which the vehicle is loaded. We had 41 citations. 23.114E1, vehicle may not transport aggregate material unless covered, 193. 23.114E4, the vehicle not required to cover the load if it remains 6 inches below the upper edge of the container. We had 6. And 23.115A, no vehicle transporting garbage, swill, cans, bottles, trash, rubbish, waste paper, cardboard, etc., shall be driven or moved upon a highway unless that load is totally covered in a manner that will prevent the load from spilling. We had 99 citations. So again, that's just to give you a little brief overview of how many citations we issued in 2019 in respect to those vehicle code violations. And we can go ahead and move to the next slide. So our actions to reduce trash on the roadway, obviously, primarily we do enforcement and education. Education side of things, we have commercial enforcement officers that team up with local waste sites to educate the public and commercial drivers on proper ways to secure your load. I know this is what we're talking about doing now, but this isn't something new. Border Division has done things like this in the past with waste management facilities, and my commercial officer here could probably talk more on that if you had any questions. CHP is currently partnering with Caltrans Surfrider, I Love a Clean San Diego, for educational events using the Marin County partnership as a model. And what they did up there was similar to what we're trying to do down here, essentially with public service announcements, press releases, responding to different dumps within their responsibility, area of responsibility, and providing free tarps, educating the public. So all very similar in nature, and it proved to be successful up there. So we're hoping to maybe now bring that down to Southern California as well. We can go ahead and move to the next slide. So education continued. Public information officers. So we have 3 PIOs here at Border Division. However, Border Division encompasses, a large portion of Southern California. So as I said before, from the beach all the way to Arizona, up through Orange and Riverside counties. So here at Border Division, we kind of oversee daily operations of around 24 or so field commands. So we're very busy here. We do have a PIO unit here at Division, but every local command within Border Division also has a PIO. So with that being said, we've conducted over 200 presentations at businesses, military installation schools, clubs throughout the county each year, over 100 informal informational booths at public and private events throughout the county. And we do a lot of social media posting, educating the public, PSAs in the past as well regarding covering your load, don't trash California, etc. You can see some of the, on the left side of there, some of those pictures from previous events. And we've, obviously CHP, we partner with Caltrans at their annual litter press events. So this year has been kind of unique. Obviously with COVID, a lot of things haven't been done that are typically done, which, I think is possibly, contributing to the issue of litter and increased litter that we see within our, counties and cities. But I'm hoping, hopefully by next year, we can start really getting out there, hitting it hard, and see some change. If we can move to the next slide. So enforcement side of things here, we kind of already went over some of the statistics and stats in regards to enforcement. However, obviously as a law enforcement agency, we enforce the vehicle code violations as we observe them. Commercial enforcement officers are constantly patrolling as well. So again, those are those officers you'll see in the pickup trucks. So they're not just typically, they're not just assigned to a scale facility that you'll see. They do actually drive around on a daily basis, patrol. And again, they can stop commercial vehicles and do inspections on the side of the roadway that your average officer wouldn't be able to do. All right. Recently in San Diego, they've completed complex but investigations in regards to illegal dumping. Illegal dumping is a problem. It's a problem that I don't see going away, specifically more down towards the South Bay, unfortunately. And we do have officers that deal with that specifically. And before I got to Border Division, I witnessed an investigation where they had successful prosecution, and those companies had to obviously reimburse Caltrans for the cleanup and things along those lines. So we are doing what we can, as much as we can, in regards to illegal dumping as well. And just so you kind of understand our role and responsibility on the freeways, as a CHP officer, we are the incident commander on, pretty much any event that occurs on the freeway. So as an incident commander, typically, we'll be one of the first on scene, we're the last to go. So we're there until the scene is stable, the scene is secure and picked up. And once the roadway is secure and safe, we'll be the last to leave and open it up and give that approval. All right, so, when we respond to collision scenes, we're there for the duration for the most part, unless, we have another call we need to respond to that's of higher priority. We ensure responders, tow, fire, etc., operate in a safe and efficient manner. And part of that is ensuring that tow companies remove debris and trash from the roadway. We would never allow a roadway to be open if there was still debris within the lanes. Obviously, that poses a safety hazard to the public, motorcyclists. So at the very least, we're going to have those tow companies pick up that debris, put them in that damaged vehicle before they drive off, and any smaller glass debris, things along those lines, they'll scoop it up, put it in a bucket, or at least get it to the shoulder before we open the roadway. Remaining debris from a collision, anytime we have some type of object or debris in the roadway, we call it 1125. So if there's an actual object in the roadway, people are going to report that, and it happens on a daily basis. They'll call 911, it gets routed to our dispatch center, and they'll report, hey, there's a garbage can or a refrigerator or something in the roadway. CHP will respond. We'll run a traffic brake. You see us driving from side to side in like a serpentine manner. We do that to slow traffic because there's some type of debris or object or something up ahead that we need to clear out the roadway. We'll do so. We'll clear it to the shoulder. If it's something larger in nature, we'll obviously move it out of the road. But then what we do is we notify dispatch. They create a DOT log. It gets routed to Caltrans. And then Caltrans on their regular rotations would go around and pick up those objects so that they're not an eyesore or visual hazard on the shoulder. So that's kind of how that process works. Yeah, so it's pretty much, I explained it there, so I won't even go through it. We'll move to the next slide. So enforcement continued, regulate and enforce tow company laws and guidelines. So I'll go through these vehicle code sections here. These apply to all tow companies within California. So vehicle code section 27700, tow trucks shall be equipped and carry all of the following items. One or more brooms, and shall remove all glass and debris deposited upon the roadway by a disabled vehicle, which is to be towed. 2, one or more shovels, whenever practical, shall spread dirt upon the portion of the freeway where oil or grease has been deposited by a disabled vehicle. And 3, one or more fire extinguishers. Okay, so that vehicle code section there encompasses basically requirements for all tow companies throughout the state. And then we have another section down here which applies to our freeway service patrol companies. And that's a partnership with CHP, DOT, where tow companies essentially provide a free service to the motoring public. And we'll get into that more later. But this vehicle code section applies to our freeway service patrol. And that's the department, in cooperation with the Department of Transportation, shall provide training for all employees and tow truck drivers who are involved in the freeway service patrol operations pursuant to an agreement or contract, including 1, tow truck driver and motorist safety, 2, patrol responsibility, 3, vehicle operations, 4, traffic control and scene management, 5, communication process, and 6, demeanor and courtesy. So our tow companies that are operating under the FSP model, they are held to essentially a higher standard. They're required to attend additional training that your average tow truck driver that's working for just some company that's not a part of the FSP wouldn't be required to do. So essentially they have to attend more training in regards to all those things there that you see on the screen. So we'll move to the next slide. Tow companies. So again, here, this just kind of breaks down the freeway service patrol, CHP contract tows and non-contract tows. So we'll start with the freeway service patrol. Typically, we have 2 tow companies contracted in San Diego that operate under that model. Their primary purpose is to basically provide a free service to the motoring public. They'll change the tire, give them a little bit of gas to get off the freeway if they ran out of gas. They can transport a vehicle off the freeway to a drop zone, which basically, usually they'll only take them to the nearest, the next exit and get them off the freeway for safety reasons. They're not going to transport the individual home or take their car home for them. They do sometimes assist us in clearing collision scenes as well. So if they're in contact with our dispatch at all times. So when there is a traffic collision and we get the call, they're also made aware of that collision. And if they're free and they're not tied up, a lot of times they'll respond to assist. So they can move vehicles out of the roadway for us, get them to the shoulder as well to help clear that roadway and get it open. And the tow trucks that operate under this program must be inspected every contract. CHP contract tows, we have about 40 tow companies on the rotation, and they basically will apply to be a contract tow with CHP. And we look at past history, inspection of vehicles, and accessibility to determine whether they'll work for our tow rotation program. Typically, to get on a rotation, they have to be able to respond to an incident within 20 minutes. So when we call them, they have to be within 20 minutes with it to respond to that location, to that collision scene. If they're selected to be on the rotation, they are held to a higher standard. They receive additional training. than your typical non-contract tow companies. Like I said, they have to be there within 20 minutes, and the tow trucks are inspected annually by our department, so by our commercial officers. And again, we already discussed what the vehicle code section requires tow trucks to have, but if you're on a rotation with a CHP, we require them to carry additional items, and part of that inspection that's done annually is when they'll drive their trucks to the inspection site. We'll have commercial officers go through, inspect their vehicles to make sure they're compliant with vehicle code, but also they're operating in a safe manner, and they have all the required materials and documentation that CHP requires them to have to be on a rotation. We also have non-contract tows, and we have estimated over 200 tow companies, licensed or unlicensed, within San Diego. Non-contract companies may run one truck at times. Some of them might not be licensed. And if they're not licensed, they're typically working for a repair shop and transporting vehicles from a collision scene to a repair shop type thing. They're often called by a vehicle owner at an unreported collision scene. So I kind of went over how the process works when we get called to a collision scene, what we do to remove debris once it's to the shoulder, contacting dispatch, creating a DOT log. But a lot of the debris that you see on the freeway, like the bumper, the wheel, the tire, a lot of that is due to unreported collisions, which, do occur frequently. And obviously we don't have stats for that because they're unreported. So what that means is they never call 911 for whatever reason. Maybe the parties will exchange information amongst themselves and drive off. Or if the vehicle's not drivable, they'll just go ahead and call a private tow company. That tow company will come up, pick up the vehicle, and take off. Now, I can't speak for those tow companies, but a lot of times those non-contract tows, they're not held to the same standard. They might not follow, policy and laws. They might pick up that vehicle and leave behind the bumper because they're either lazy or whatever the case may be. They don't want to waste the time putting it in the back of the car, and they end up leaving it on the shoulder. So a lot of those car parts and things that you see are due to those unreported collisions. The way we deal with that is, patrol officers are out there every day. They're patrolling their beat. They sweep their beat. That's just something normally that we do as officers when we start our shift. And officers can report those things to our dispatch center, at which point, again, we create a DOT log, and Caltrans could come out on a rotation and pick up that bumper, pick up that debris. So that's kind of how we handle those unreported collisions when there's debris left over on the freeway. Tow truck equipment. During inspection by a commercially trained CHP officer or a motor carrier, every FSP and contract tow truck is required to have trash cans and absorbent, 4 gallons, a broom, and a shovel. So again, some additional equipment that they're required to carry. If a tow truck does not have the required equipment at a collision scene, that driver may be cited, and they may be removed from the rotation. So obviously these tow truck companies on the rotation, they're making a decent amount of money. Okay, so they're not gonna do anything to jeopardize reaching their contract. So if they have several tow complaints against them, or they're called to a collision scene and on multiple times they take longer than 20 minutes, or they respond to a collision scene, they don't pick it up properly, they can be removed from the tow rotation. And obviously, if they're removed from the rotation, they're losing money. So our rotations, personally, based on my experience from working all over the state, from Los Angeles to Sacramento to San Diego, are not necessarily the problem. They're held to a standard in which they're trained to know when they respond to a collision scene that they're required to move all that debris. They're going to remove all that debris because they don't want to jeopardize their contract. So that's all I really have on that slide. We can go to the next one. And this is just some planned events and partnerships. Obviously, right now with COVID, some things have been postponed. But we're working on some tarp your load events, partnering with Surfrider, I Love Clean San Diego, Caltrans, Sandag. And we had these, as you know, planned for the 14th and the 5th, but those have been postponed for now. Hopefully we can get some of those going after the new year when hopefully this virus will die down a little bit. We did have a press conference scheduled for December 3rd. However, that's postponed as well. We're in talks with Caltrans about producing flyers and pamphlets. Surfrider has been able to secure some funds for tarps for the events that we were going to be holding, for Tarp Your Load events. CHP, Caltrans, I Love Clean San Diego, Sandag, we're gonna, we can put some PSAs out, post on social media throughout the campaign. That's stuff we could do now as well. I know, there's not a ton we can do, but I think still pushing some of this out through social media would be a positive. I mean, it's not gonna hurt. So with CHP, obviously we have a pretty big platform, not only here at Division, but all of our commands have social media accounts, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We can use that to kind of push that message out there. And we're going to be we're in the production stages of coming up with a Tarp Your Load video. So I know when we had a meeting a month or so ago with Caltrans, I Love Clean San Diego, Surfrider, they had brought up the idea of creating a video. There were some other state agencies that had done some in the past, and I think that is a good idea. So we're going to create a video here at Border Division, and in our partnership with the California Tow Truck Association. So we contacted them. They sent out a PSA countywide and statewide, reminding their tow drivers to clean collision scenes. They will also post it in their newsletter and continue and bring it up on occasion during their meetings over the coming months and year. So that post should have went out in this month's newsletter. Basically what it was is just reminding not only tow agencies down in the southern half of the state, but statewide, reminding them to make sure when they respond to a collision scene to clean it up properly. And if we also provided in that pamphlet, I have it right here, our 1-800-TEL-CHP. So once debris is moved to the shoulder, they can contact us. We can create a log for it, and then hopefully get Caltrans out there to pick that debris up off the shoulder, so it's not a visual hazard. So that's a pretty positive thing we've done recently, statewide. So not even, like I said, just within San Diego County. So that's pretty big, pretty huge. And then I got approval to put out a briefing item. This briefing item will just cover commands within Border Division. What a briefing item is, during roll call for every shift, the sergeant typically, or someone will go up, read through these briefing items prior to the start of the shift, when they're issuing beats and whatnot. So we're going to be putting a briefing item out, reminding officers that, if they see debris or something along the shoulder, to remind them to contact dispatch so they can create a DOT log and it can be picked up in a timely manner. So we're working on that right now. It's in the review process, and then hopefully by next week we can get that out to all the commands, just as a friendly reminder, reminding officers that when they see debris, because if there's debris in the roadway, they're going to remove it. But once they move it to the shoulder, just reminding them, hey, if you're sweeping your beat and you see, a bumper or something on the shoulder, notify dispatch so they can create a log and we can get that taken care of. So those are some things we have in the works right now. And go ahead and go to the next slide. And that's the end of it. So with that being said, if obviously we'll take any questions and go from there. Thank you for allowing us to present.
Well, thank you very much, Sergeant Johnson, and the rest of your staff who's there. It's clear that a lot of effort is already going into this. I just wonder if what do you think is an area where we could see improvement? Because I think, one of the premise of this subcommittee is that the status quo is just really not great, and that we have a lot of trash on the road and it's too much and we want to do something about it. And so I wonder, you have a lot of experience in this, and I wonder if you see areas where things could be improved. And I don't know if it's around the non-contract tow companies, or like you just mentioned at the end, when patrol officers are sweeping their beat every morning, or as they come on to their beat, having a kind of a higher standard of reporting and notifying dispatch, or if there are other areas where you think that this committee could focus some attention, or to ask for more data and to try to move that needle. Because I think given that all the standards that are in place, we want to try to see what are the areas of improvement that we could see here. So do you have any thoughts about that?
I mean, and anyone can answer if they have any ideas, but we've roundtabled and discussed some things. Obviously, the easiest things that we're able to do at the moment, we're implementing now, like the briefing items. And, obviously from working all over the state, I've responded to tons of collisions. Like I said in the PowerPoint, officers, an officer is not going to leave anything in the roadway. It's going to be clear to the shoulder. Now, even though it's out of the roadway, it's still on the shoulder. It's still a visual hazard. It can still be a hazard to the motoring public, depending on what it is. Can always has a possibility of going back into the road. So, we do have a process for dealing with that. And again, that's contacting your dispatch, creating those DOT logs, having Caltrans come out, clean up those items out of the roadway. As far as the trash is concerned on the freeway and debris flying outside of vehicles, again, the amount of collisions caused by an object falling from a vehicle are pretty minimal. Obviously, we'd like that to be zero, but we are, if you look at the stats, we are out there actively enforcing as much as we can, taking proper enforcement action when we see loads that aren't covered or we see an unsafe load. So I think just with the current times with COVID, it's kind of put a wrench in things. Obviously, driving around the city, there's trash. I mean, I'm not gonna, there's trash out there. I live downtown, I see it within the cities, I see it on the freeways. And a lot of that, I think as a result of, COVID-19 and the fact that we haven't been able to go out and necessarily enforce and take as much action as we've been able to in the past, due to the fact that we don't want to spread that virus any further. So we can only, as far as homeless encampments are concerned, which generates, a lot of the trash that you do see on the freeways, we can only go in at this time and pick up garbage. We're not allowed to move them or touch their personal property. So yeah, we can go in and pick up the garbage, but then there's just gonna be more trash the next day and the next day. So it's kind of, right now, it's just we're in one of those situations where, we can go out there every day and hammer it, but I don't think until we kind of move past what's going on right now, it's going to create a huge dent in the issue as far as the litter is concerned as a result of the homeless.
One thing is I was meeting with our law enforcement partners within the cities as well. So again, like Sergeant Johnson was saying, within the cities, there's, obviously you have trash issues to deal with. So getting our other partners in law enforcement within their cities and within their regions to also assist in this process, whether even if that's law enforcement agencies, we're all over the place. We're on the freeways, we're traveling from different locations. They can also share that information if they see something on the side of the road that they can report to CHP through their dispatch, and then again, ultimately goes to Caltrans. So they're notified of the debris or the trash that's out there. So that's one suggestion I have is say reaching out to our other partners.
Okay.
I don't know if we're just talking about trash and debris along the freeway or in general. I know a few months ago, someone mentioned, the trash starts at the home type thing, which, obviously is true. It starts and obviously with COVID, people are using more plastics and things that they can throw away and dispose of. So there is more trash being generated. I mean, that's a fact. And, I don't know city laws or county ordinances, and if this is even a thing, but just something that came across my mind the other day, if, say a restaurant that has like a big garbage bin that they keep in their back of their lot, and that's where they put all their trash. Is there a requirement where they're required to like lock it and secure it? Or maybe that's something we can push where your restaurants and things of that nature are required to secure their garbage cans on their property, because a lot of times we'll have individuals rummage through that and they're pulling the trash bags out, and the trash is just now all over the roadway and it's blowing onto the sides of the street. Or, there's restaurants that are adjacent to freeways and they'll go in there and they'll, take the trash and they'll bring those trash bags to their encampments, and now the trash bags break open and there's trash all along the freeway. I don't know if there's some requirement where we can, or something we can push to educate business owners that, hey, either secure your trash cans in a shed or keep them locked, something along those lines, maybe to help mitigate the trash problem.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to call on Gustavo because he has his hand up in a second, but I'll just say that I think, I mean, one of my hopes is that it's clear that this problem is multifactorial. And so there's not one thing or one agency that will solve it. But I guess, I mean, my hope is that all the different partners can recommit to doing the best they can for what their responsibility is. So, CHP, if you're not in on every city street and dealing with the waste hauler and the local law enforcement on every of 18 cities in the county, but you are all over the freeways, right? I mean, I think when you're talking about the beat that you sweep, you're up and down the freeways, and just making sure that those dispatches, if there's a big ribbon of plastic or there's a lot of shattered glass or there is a bumper or that kind of thing on the side of the road, that's not a traffic hazard at the moment, but it is litter, and it is potentially a problem if someone crashed into it. And just that your piece of that is being done at the highest level in terms of everybody is calling it in, that you're making that log with Caltrans, that you're like fulfilling the responsibility of your part. And I know you said that you're putting that in as a reminder for everybody. And to me, that seems like a really important thing. So just in case there's a sense of that's like not the primary responsibility, but that there is a greater sense of the community responsibility. So that CHP is doing those, to me, that seems important. So I'm glad you emphasized that. And I hope that continues to be a focus. And I just want to make one other point, is that I understand COVID has added all these problems, especially around homelessness, but at least at the beginning, and even still now, the amount of traffic is still down. So, the traffic was down by 80% at the beginning, but, for all these various reasons, we didn't get kind of in front of the trash problem at that point. We sort of let it balloon. And in many ways, the traffic, it's coming from traffic on these roads. And so when traffic is down, to me, is when we could be able to do a little bit more to get in front of this and to really handle it. So I'm hoping that we deal with our reality, which is COVID, and not kind of just think, oh, it's going to be really bad during COVID, but somehow it's going to get better after. Because the truth is, it was bad before COVID, and we were having these kind of complaints and conversations about it before COVID hit last March. So I do think it's important that we're all committed to that, even in this environment. Did you want to say something, Sergeant Johnson? I see you're sitting.
Yeah, I don't want you to think that we're using COVID as an excuse, because that's not the case at all. Obviously, this is an important issue and we're going to address it. I do personally think, speaking on behalf of the Board Division CHP, that we're doing as much as we can right now to mitigate on our end the issues of litter and debris on the freeways. A lot of the stuff we're doing is already being done. I'm just sending out that briefing item just as a reminder. Maybe if it just reaches one or two officers that, maybe they didn't, sweep their beat or report that, debris on the shoulder, maybe that'll just, remind them, hey, I need to do that type thing. But, on a daily basis, that's just what we're trained to do. Officers sweep their beat every day. When there's debris on the shoulder, they're contacting dispatch, they're creating those DOT logs to notify Caltrans. We're doing as much as we can on our end, I believe. And obviously we're always open to more suggestions, but I think we're doing the best we can right now with mitigating that issue. It's just, yeah. I mean, if there's suggestions or ideas, we're open to it. But I think contacting the tow companies statewide and getting that out there was a huge positive. I think that's gonna help the issue, because that doesn't just reach, companies on a rotation. That's statewide. That's all tow agencies, or a majority of them. So I think we're doing as much as we can to help mitigate this issue. But
I appreciate that. And I also just want to say, and Deputy Mayor Amanda Rigby said it in the chat, that thanks for the great work and thought that went into this presentation. I do want to acknowledge that I recognize putting this presentation together was hours of work, pulling it together and being able to present it. And I'm really grateful for your engagement on this topic. So thank you for participating and being willing to think about ways to help us make a cleaner county, because I think all of us on the committee are really grateful for that. I just want to acknowledge that. I mean, as part of having these conversations, it's difficult to be asking for change, but also recognizing there's a lot of work that's already going in to create what we have. So please know that we're grateful.
Right.
I'm going to call on Gustavo, and then I'll go to Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Like here, I do want to thank the CHP for the thorough presentation. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that they were already doing, and there are some great ideas of new things that they're doing. Like they mentioned, contacting the tow companies and the video that they're going to be helping put together, as well as all the work that they did for the two TARP year load events that unfortunately had to be postponed, but all that work wasn't wasted. And like Mark mentioned earlier, as soon as we get the green light to be able to pull those events, all of that work will come to fruition. I just want to mention that one of the things that Caltrans is doing is putting more litter fine signs. So last year, when we started talking about litter, we recognized that we did not have enough signs out there, educating the public about the fact that littering is breaking the law and there is a fine associated with that. So we have ordered a couple dozen signs. About half of them have been installed, but we're still waiting for another to receive the other, about a dozen signs that will be installed. And obviously we are prioritizing the routes that are the higher trash areas where we're putting the signs, areas where historically there's more trash accumulating because there may be a landfill nearby or things like that. So that's something that we're working on. Hopefully we will get those signs soon and we'll finish installing the rest of the signs. Thank you.
That's great to hear. Thank you. Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you again to the Sergeant for the presentation. I think my concern is the balance, and I appreciate the fact that we have the details of all of the roles and the hats that you all play. And when you are called out to a collision, that you do bring in those tow truck companies. You are also monitoring, the oncoming traffic. And that's essential. I want to thank you for that because it's life or death, truly. And I think the other part to that is recognizing that, and I'm glad Gustavo brought up the fact that it's about that education piece and that verbal, hey, there is consequences if for whatever reason there is trash that gets left behind. But it's good to know what the steps are that you as CHP officers take whenever there is that accident or there is something, a chair or a sofa or whatever that falls off of somebody's car that or the truck, that what we can do as the passerbys, is it best to call 911? Is it best to even report it? I know in cities we have what's called the See Click Fix or report it app, and not that people should be using their phones while they're driving, right, guys? But I think that it's important if there is just another mechanism with which that there's something being done about it, and it doesn't tie up a line or something that, again, it's still the level of public safety. But has CHP ever thought about technology in that sense, and possibly that empowerment of our drivers or other ways to report these types of hazards on the road?
Sorry, I'm moving into the camera. I'm Officer Bailey with California Highway Patrol. We actually have other phone numbers for people to call and report non-emergency items. So something such as littering, the small objects that aren't actually a immediate hazard. At 911, our dispatch center, like we said, we get hundreds of thousands of calls each day, each year to tell us about objects in the roadway, reporting collisions. Our call center is completely busy and of course understaffed like everybody else. But for every object in the roadway, having worked at the dispatch center as an officer for 5 years, every object that falls on the roadway, we have at least 20 phone calls on. So people know how to contact us. They know how to tell us about the objects. Something that I was part of the trash abatement committee that we had 2 years ago with Caltrans to really try to focus in Sandag. What are we going to do to help this problem? We went for it commercially. That's why we involved our commercial officers, got them involved, and we went for the companies. Hey, if we educate the companies, it'll get rid of a larger amount of trash on our freeways, and that's how we went. But what we also have to look at is each individual that's traveling on the roadway. So if you think about the thousands of vehicles that travel on the freeway each day in one section, if that one car drops one piece of trash and each car is dropping one piece of trash, that's thousands of pieces of trash. So now that we've gone commercially as the Highway Patrol, as Caltrans, Surfrider working with us and a couple other organizations, we also need to remember, and this is what we're doing on our social media accounts, is in reminding the individual. It's up to you individually, whether you have a pickup truck where people in parking lots like to throw the piece of trash in the back because it's not their pickup and they don't really care. But once that vehicle gets on the freeway, it flies out and it becomes our problem. So we are working on that in the social media aspect. As for the public contacting us, we do have a lot of CHP phone numbers for them to contact, whether it's 1-800-TEL-CHP, which is plastered everywhere, 911, which is also on our freeway signs saying, hey, if there's something, an emergency, you contact us. And then a lot of people do use our non-emergency phone call or numbers to report trash on the roadways also. So we have several different things as we're putting together an app or putting together something on a website. Because we are statewide, it's a little bit more difficult, but contacting us by phone is very easy for people to do.
Well, and again, just knowing that there is a non-emergency line, you know, each city has one as well. I think it's really important that as part of that education piece, you let us know as the policymakers so we can reinforce it as well and just add it to our, you know, directory of needed phone numbers. If you're here, go dial this or whatever. And not just when they're calling for emergencies either, because we have a lot of PSAs and times where we can help empower and educate our communities just on a number of things. But again, thank you so much. And again, you mentioned it at the beginning, we are in the purple tier. So I remind everybody, please wear your facial coverings as protection, including our presenters. I thank you again for all of your support and protection of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Serge is putting on his mask in preparation for his comments. But first, I just want to say I didn't realize we did this 2 years ago. So that was interesting information that she just provided right there with commercial operators. I wasn't aware of that context. So thank you for sharing that. So now I will call on Mayor Dedina.
Good, mask ready in my kitchen. Anyway, we're staying physically distanced in my household. First, thanks to CHP, tough job. And obviously, you know, I'll say what you guys can and nobody else wants to say. You know, the small percentage of super spreaders who are then, you know, spreading COVID, going, you know, to fast food places and then driving 100 miles an hour on the freeway and then throwing their garbage on the freeway are causing you guys all kinds of problem. And then obviously resulting in the deaths of people like last night on our highways. You know, I've only been driving for 42 years, so I'm pretty young. I've never seen people drive worse, and you guys see it every day and all night. It's Lord of the Flies meets the Road Warrior on our highways, but as well in our city. I've never seen more people drive through red lights ever in the United States, ever that I've seen recently in the last few months. So it's clear that the lawlessness that a very small percentage of people believe they can carry out. And we see it on our beaches. We see it at state parks. Anybody who manages a public area, whether it's U.S. Forest Service up in the lagunas, knows that there's garbage everywhere. So people are driving like maniacs or spreading COVID, and then, you know, they're throwing trash everywhere. And that's a huge problem that is clear that, you know, our friends in the CHP and Caltrans in San Diego can't deal with alone. We need to engage the regional water board. It's clear, and the state water board, and we need to address this with our state elected officials. It's clear that this needs leadership from Sacramento. You know, Texas addressed this back in the 60s. Lady Bird Johnson had a whole campaign in Texas to beautify roads, and they had a whole "Don't Mess with Texas." I went to school at UT Austin for grad school, so I'm very familiar with that campaign. But that was 50 and 60 years ago, and we had those campaigns all over the country. I think we all assume this is being dealt with, but it's clear we have a whole new generation of trash super spreaders, as well as people who drive like maniacs. So we've got to get a handle on this. Our state's being trashed, and it's not just San Diego. And so, look, I appreciate everyone's efforts, but it's upon us to help get you guys some more help. And so we're going to have to do that. Our governor has to take this seriously. Our legislators have to stop. We can't deal with the climate crisis if we can't deal with the trash crisis. It's a little too hypocritical for us to start waxing on about how we're going to save the planet, but we can't clean up trash. And so as someone who's been working on environmental issues, I've never seen more garbage on the highways. But again, we were complaining about this 2 years ago as well. I think a lot of us were. So, I'm committed to helping, but, and I think we're on the right path. I think the social media and campaign stuff we can do now is great. I'm not sure why we can't do a virtual press conference. I think a lot of folks are doing that. So if you guys want to reconsider that and see if you can do a virtual press conference, I'm assuming the media would cover it. Maybe you can't, but maybe think about that. But again, thanks to your help, and we're committed to getting you guys more help and more resources, because this has to be taken seriously. At the end of the day, COVID or not COVID, all that garbage is going to wash into our state waterways and then make our waterways more polluted, cause more beach closures, which is a real bummer during COVID era times. And so we've got to get a handle on this. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other public comments or member comments?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, just looking down the list here to make sure. Okay, so we don't have, and nobody called in. Okay, well, thank you very much to the CHP, and I do hope you continue to follow the committee and be engaged with the different ways we can be partners here, because clearly you're a critical piece of this puzzle. So I'd like to ask the members or others if you have suggestions of who else we should see at this committee. I was thinking the Regional Water Quality Board, but I wanted to see what everybody else thinks. So go ahead and appear on the screen if you would like to speak. Not seeing anybody. Okay, Serge, yes.
No, I'm echoing what you said. I think we need the Regional Water Board. They need to take responsibility for this issue. They have the jurisdiction for managing this issue, and we need to start thinking about our state elected officials. At the end of the day, they're the ones that get the funds allocated for the state. I think they've absolved themselves of responsibility for managing and overseeing our state highways and this issue in particular. So without state elected officials, we're not going to get this moving. And we need to get the governor's office or lieutenant governor, somebody involved at the statewide level to really start taking this seriously, because it's clear that Sacramento isn't. And, as someone who's worked on statewide issues for, more than 20 years on the environmental front, it's clear that without Sacramento engagement and agency chief involvement, nothing happens in the field. It's just clear. And everyone's overworked, not enough resources. And so we've got to really get Sacramento to start addressing this. And that's going to be also as well through the media. So anyway, but we're on the right track. So
let's just talk about this a little bit. So do you think that is best done as our state senators, state assembly members who represent San Diego County and the executive branch, so the governor's office? Is that what you would suggest? Or do you think because these agencies are executive branch agencies, we should just focus on trying to get somebody from the governor's office or lieutenant governor's office to come?
All of the above. I think during environmental campaigns, you start looking at your strategy, and you start picking out your sort of strategic plan, but it's generally all the above. I think we need a champion at the state level, the state assembly, state senate level, someone who's going to carry this and make this their cause. But it's clear that we have to reach out to the governor's office. And the lieutenant governor has been a good champion of environmental issues, at least here on the border. So somebody, but we've got to get Sacramento engaged. And so, yeah, I'd argue both. And, learned a lot from working with Sandag on how they address these issues. And it's clear that, with lobbying strategy, you do that. So, but we have to do that.
Okay. Well, maybe we can work together with the Sandag staff who've been assigned to this committee to reach out to the offices of all of those elected officials and see if they can send a staff member to the next subcommittee meeting where hopefully we have upcoming, Caltrans is going to return to us on the Adopt a Highway program. We also then have the Regional Water Quality Control Board that we're inviting to come here and see if, I don't know if any of those state level offices are going to be ready to present, but they could certainly participate and listen to what we're trying to do and focus in on the problem.
Yeah, they have to take it seriously. And it's clear that the state of California is not taking this issue seriously. We talk a great talk on the environment and saving the planet and addressing climate change, but the most basic thing that governments can do, which is to pick up trash, they haven't figured that out right now, and they're not taking it seriously. It's very clear to me. And that's, now we have two administrations, the Brown administration and this administration, it's not a priority for them. And it has to be. And, again, every state agency that manages open space, and all of us are addressing the litter bug crisis, but we've got to get a handle on it. And I think the highways are most visible. I would argue that and what I've learned is counterintuitive. People aren't going to be fatigued during the holidays to receive this message. I think everyone wants to see some leadership. The minute we talk about it, they're going to go, thank God somebody is talking about it publicly. So I would argue that we don't have to wait till after the holidays to get campaigns going. I think people will be very receptive to any messaging we send out.
Okay. And we should also probably include the county leadership, not just state, not just assembly and senate districts, but also county board of supervisors, because some of this, it really will be managed at a county level because it is the county problem that we're dealing with.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, getting the county engaged
Yeah.
is going to be critical. And we have new leadership
Yeah.
in it. So I think they can be very helpful.
Right. Okay. Okay, that's a good suggestion. Thank you for talking about that. And I just want to invite Len or Mark to speak up on this. I know you've been involved in the trenches on litter for a long time. So is there any, or I see Jim Linthicum, did you want to say something?
Yeah, Mayor, I just wanted to add that, yeah, we will work with, Sandex staff will work with the local legislative offices and also the county supervisor staff, and to get as many as we can to the next meeting and future meetings.
Okay, thank you so much for piping up. I see Len has his hand up. Would you like to speak, Len?
And we'll continue, Mayor, to do as much as we possibly can. We're starting to see a larger number of volunteers who are taking on the opportunity of getting out into their community because they are frustrated. And they're doing it independently. We are now in a much greater virtual environment. As a matter of fact, this past month, we held 32 cleanups, all well attended in their respective communities in the fashion that has now become the virtual. But we're starting to see people who are more engaged, and we'll continue to educate on how people can do that. We'd very much like to work with other organizations so that we can help them support their cleanups as well, and beginning to engage in organizations like Rotary, who have taken on a new strategic goal of focus on the environment. So Rotary members will now become much more focused on how to do this and have opportunities to be able to educate and create a better awareness of what's required, both from a tarping perspective, because I think this is, that's one effort, but as has been pointed out here today, there's so many more areas that's not about tarping. It's just about people not being responsible or taking the time to pick it up and put it in the correct disposal. And we are working at a number of different locations with a few. We're working with the Chula Vista Police Department to try to find a way to enhance their homelessness outreach program safely and get some of the cleanup done. But that in itself presents a significant challenge, primarily because of the environment that we're dealing with, and then getting individuals who will volunteer basically to go out in that environment knowing that they're not as protected as everybody else. So this purple thing has put a crunch on quite a few people, and even our volunteers wanting to get out in any kind of connection, but they are doing it independently. And I think that's good. We're getting more and more phone calls on a weekly basis about why we're not doing more. And, you know, I keep having to tell them that the success of I Love a Clean San Diego rests in the hand of every citizen of San Diego County. It doesn't rest in this in the front office of I Love a Clean San Diego. It's the people out there who need to just change their behaviors and be part of the cleanup. When you see it, pick it up, throw it away, because that's what Lady Bird Johnson started, and it resulted in a get out there, clean it up, and nobody's going to do it if you don't do it. And I think that's kind of the message that we just keep pushing.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer Mendoza, I see you have your hand up.
Hi. So I'm at my local food pantry this morning giving out food. And, you know, hearing this discussion, there's kind of two things. You asked who we might want to hear from in the future. And I think it might be good to hear from the regional task force on the homeless, just to kind of, you know, maybe get some information from their perspective, because that is in our area in East County, and I'm sure other parts of San Diego, that is really become a major issue, and they don't have a place to throw their trash, so they just leave it behind, whether it's private property or public property. And a small town like Lemon Grove, our resources are really being strained on keeping up with this cleanup, because people, for whatever reason, people leave encampments, and then our city crews clean up an encampment at least once or twice a week. And then that's just in addition to keeping up with general litter around town. And then in our community, our Lions Club, we don't have a Rotary, we have a Lions Club that's very active, and they do a monthly litter pickup. And then there's also some other small community groups that are doing you know, litter cleanups also. So, you know, I'd like to talk about how we can coordinate those efforts, and acknowledge the work that these we are really relying on community groups, and how can we acknowledge the work that they're doing. So those are just some things that have been running through my head while I've been listening in on the meeting.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So I'll call on Gustavo and then Deputy Mayor Rigby.
Thank you, Blake. I just want to address something that was said earlier regarding the potential participation of the Regional Water Quality Board, and just to let you know that the Regional Quality Board takes the trash issue very seriously, and the issue that litter may end up on our waterway. So there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes, particularly between us and the Regional Water Quality Board. So we would be glad to engage them and invite them, and potentially put together a joint presentation regarding how litter affects water quality and what's being done about it. So I can take that on, but I just want to reassure everyone that the Water Quality Board may not be here today, but litter is at the forefront of their enforcement and regulation efforts for our county.
Okay, that sounds great. I think that's a really good idea to have a joint presentation, and to have them present and come to the meeting to talk about this, so we can understand what their regulations are, what they enforce, how they do it, just the whole framework like we heard from CHP today, so that we understand that better. Deputy Mayor Rigby.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to you, Mayor Blakespear, for the way that you chair this committee and the way that you bring people together. And I really appreciate a lot of times when we have these meetings and we have committees that we've created, there is a lot of talk, there's a lot of sharing, but there isn't a lot of action or substantive items that come out of these meetings. This is not one of those committees that has that problem. I see that we have brought not just jurisdictions together, but also community groups together and regional partners together, and really are working on an action plan to address this problem. And I really appreciate everybody coming together to do this. And it's very sad that we have so many in our community who really don't care about litter, who I see people throw things on the sidewalk as they walk past a trash bin. And I don't know where as a society we came to a point where that's okay to do when it's not. And I really appreciate the work that this committee is putting into it and the people that we're bringing together. And I appreciate the CHP and the work that they did on their presentation, as well as the work that they've been doing in the community. So I think this is a great committee. I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I look forward to seeing how it comes to fruition and the events when we're able to put those events together to see those come out. So I just want to say thank you to you and to the committee as a whole for what we're doing, what you're going to be doing on this. So those are just my comments. Thank you very much. I appreciate it all.
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor Rigby. We are sad to be losing you. It's really been wonderful to serve with you, and I hope you can continue to be an ex officio member because it's great to have your voice and your advocacy and the heart that you've brought to this job. So we will be missing you next year when we reconvene this committee.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. You might see me pop in every now and then.
Okay, great. Okay, let me see if there are any other hands up. Mark, he has his hand up.
Hi, I just wanted to, you're talking about long-term goals, and with Surfrider, one of our main things is single-use plastic ordinances, working with cities. Quite a few cities along the coast are in a position where they have passed ordinances to help reduce the amount of plastic that we're using. We're currently working the 78 corridor, Escondido, Vista, San Marcos, into Carlsbad, Oceanside are all engaged with us along with Chula Vista. So if there's any other cities out there that would love some help in getting started, and we know with COVID again, it takes time to get an ordinance passed anyway. Hopefully we'll be well beyond that as a means for why we don't want to impact any businesses. But we would sure love to help any city have a plastic-free recovery by reducing the amount of single-use plastic and waste within their cities. So we're up for any city who wants to work with us in those regards. So,
well, thank you, Mark. Why don't you say your phone number or email slowly so that if anybody's listening and they think, hey, I'd love some help on getting an ordinance together and they're not really sure where to start, that you could help them with some model ordinances or a path that would get them moving forward.
Sure. You can reach me at Mark, M-A-R-K, at surfridersd.org. Mark at surfridersd.org. We'd love to help you.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, I think that sometimes people, they get into office and they want to do things, and then sometimes the path to do it is a little bit opaque. And so having somebody like Mark help with a discussion, a framework, how to think about a plastics ordinance that is acceptable to the community and that would make a difference, moves the needle. I think that can be a really great thing. And he just gave his information there. So I hope that maybe that will lead to more cities having single-use plastic ordinance reduction in single-use plastic ordinances. Okay, so thank you for that. Now let's see, we have Michael Seidler.
Hello, thank you. Yes, my name is Mike Wansidler, and I work with the County of San Diego's Solid Waste Planning and Recycling Program. And hearing the discussion about single-use plastics, I thought I should bring up a couple of the proposed legislation from last year on that topic. SB 54 and AB 1080 those targeted working on requiring plastic manufacturers to take responsibility for single-use plastics. And that was one of the co-authors is a local assemblywoman, Lorena Gonzalez. And it would have, if it was passed, it was not passed, it was very near to passing, but didn't pass in the final hours of the session. It would have reduced single-use plastics 75% by the year 2032. It also would have required plastics to be recyclable. So I have a good feeling that that will come up again. And so it may be that it's a good idea to hear from her just to track that bill more closely. Also, another one that's coming up is a proposed ballot measure in 2022 that a company in one of the waste and recycling companies in Northern California has been gathering signatures for, and I believe that they've secured enough signatures to get it on the ballot, but I'm not positive. And that would also work on reducing single-use plastics and potentially place a fee on single-use disposable items. So just want to make sure that people are aware of those efforts happening on the state level.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that. I mean, I think that's a good idea for the people on this call and this organization, this subcommittee, to be engaged in advocating next year for some of the bills that would help us achieve our goals. So thank you for highlighting that. Okay, so let me see. I think we might be almost nearly done here. I don't see any other hands raised. So I guess I would ask if anybody else wants to make any final comments before our next meeting, which is December 2nd at 10 a.m. And that would be the next subcommittee meeting. So Gustavo, are you?
Yeah, Mayor Blakespear, if I may, just a couple of quick things. One is to thank for sure Mark and Len at I Love It Clean San Diego and Surfrider for all the work they're doing. They are and their organizations are engaged with this topic, and they're serious about making a change and making our communities better. So I really want to thank them from the bottom of my heart. In the next couple of weeks, Caltrans will be presenting at the Cities and County Transportation Advisory Committee at SANDAG, also known as CTAC. That's where we will be presenting the idea that we had at the last meeting, which was, hey, when a local street crosses a highway, we need the cities and the counties to pick up the trash on those, just like they maintain the rest of those roads. So we will be presenting that over the next couple of weeks. So just wanted to share that, and thank you again for all the leadership and for putting us all together. As you can see, we're all passionate about this topic, and it is making a difference.
Okay, well, thank you very much. With that, we are adjourned. So we'll see you in a few short weeks. Bye.